go to parks, you should always feel calm and refreshed, right? Don't believe that. Some parks aren't as great as they sound. Some of them are so lame that I wish I had my time and energy back. It's been fun to visit parks in many places and countries, but there are some I'll never go back to. They really are that bad. These parks made me angry and wanting more because they were too crowded and poorly planned. Please don't go to these 10 parks if you're planning your next trip. I won't be going there again, and you might not want to either. Have you ever stepped into a park that felt more like a construction site than a relaxing getaway? That's what happened to me in Barcelona at Parc Diagonal del Mar. This park could have been a lovely place to get away from one of the world's busiest towns. Instead, it feels like a cold, empty industrial land. Imagine that there isn't any lush vegetation or inviting paths. Instead, there is concrete metal buildings and not much shade. The modern design might be interesting from a building point of view, but it's not at all what you'd expect when you want to relax. The seating isn't extremely comfortable, and there aren't many family-friendly activities. Overall, it feels like a project that wasn't finished. During the warmer months, it's too hot to stay for long because there isn't much shade. I really think you should stay away from this park if you're ever in Barcelona and want to relax in peace. Many other parks in the city are much better places to spend time. Do you know that one of the biggest parks in Paris is more like a concrete city? Of course, you can find that at Parc André Citroën. The idea behind this park was to make it feel futuristic by combining modern design with open areas. However, it feels dull and lifeless. Even though there are some beautiful water features, they can't make up for the huge amount of concrete and lack of plants. It seems more like a public area than a park where you'd want to lay out all afternoon. I thought it would be a peaceful place to get away from it all in the middle of Paris, but all I found was a stark, uninviting room that felt clean. On paper, the future idea may have seemed new and different, but the way it was put into action is extremely poor. Aside from a few nice places to sit, there isn't much shade on those hot summer days in Paris. Parents with kids will be especially let down because the park doesn't have many activities or play places. This park is really disappointing in a city that is known for its cute and well-kept parks. Have you ever been to a park that made you feel more tired than calm? That's what Parc de la Villette is. It's one of Paris's biggest parks, which may sound like a good thing, but it's actually a terrible thing. The park's plan is hard to understand because the buildings are spread out and don't seem to connect to each other in any way. It's hard to get around the park because there is so much room and not enough to do in between. That the park would be a place for culture and fun, but it fails at both. There aren't many fun things for children to do, and the playgrounds aren't very appealing. It can be hard to find peace and quiet in the park because it is always crowded and noisy. Even though the design elements are ambitious, they make the room feel broken up and unconnected. If you're in Paris, there are many places where you can have a better time without having to walk around and get lost. Do you believe that the outside of an art gallery should be just as exciting as the inside? Don't believe it. It's true that Tate Modern is one of the most famous art museums in the world, but the outside areas could use some work. The area around the museum is not at all pleasant. There is no grass or trees. You'd think that an art gallery would care more about the world around it, but that's not the case here. The outside places are noisy and crowded, not at all peaceful like a park would be. The worst part is that it's hard to find a comfortable spot to sit. It doesn't feel like a park. It's more like an urban plaza. If you were looking to relax by the river or enjoy the views after a day at the museum, you'll be let down. People who are in London and want to enjoy a more peaceful and attractive park experience should go to one of the city's many lovely green spaces. Looking for a famous park that has a peaceful feel to it? You won't find it here. One of the most well-known public places in the US is the National Mall, but don't think of it as a place to relax. Even though it has some of the most important museums and landmarks in the country, the park isn't very peaceful. It's more of a tourist route. There are always a lot of people on the National Mall, and it's hard to find a place to sit without being surrounded by other people. There are a lot of open areas, but not many trees, so it's extremely hot in the summer. It's tiring to walk between the landmarks, and the area feels more like an amusement park than a place to relax or think because of the food trucks, souvenir stands, and long lines. You should go to the National Mall to learn about its past, but this isn't the place to go for a relaxing day in the park. Can you really call it a park if it's surrounded by traffic? It may look like Logan Circle is a lovely green space in the middle of Philadelphia, but it's just a fancy traffic island. There are busy streets all around the park, so it's hard to enjoy any peace and quiet. There isn't much else to see besides the pretty pond. There aren't any nice places to relax because there aren't any benches or green spaces, and the noise makes it impossible to find peace. What could have been a beautiful urban oasis looks more like a quick spot for pictures. When you're in Philadelphia and want to relax, Logan Circle is not the place for you. Have you ever been to a park that made you feel scared? That's San Francisco's Civic Center. The park is near some of the city's most important buildings, but that's the only good thing about it. The area is known for not being well taken care of, with trash and homeless people all over the place. A lot of people don't like staying there for too long because they are worried about their safety. There isn't much to do in the park itself, and the lack of plants makes it feel more like an empty city area than a park. There are many great parks in San Francisco, but Civic Center is not one of them. If you're visiting the city, I think you should stay away from this area and check out one of the other better-kept green places San Francisco has to offer. What if your park experience felt more like a trip to the mall? That is exactly what Forum des Halles gives you. It's clear that this park is part of a bigger shopping center. Instead of quiet gardens, you'll find a commercialized area with lots of people going in and out of the shopping center. There isn't much room to sit down and relax, and the park doesn't have any real peace and charm. It's usually loud and full of people shopping, and it doesn't have the quiet feel that many Parisian parks are known for. When you want to get away from it all in Paris, don't go to Forum des Halles. Instead, go to one of the city's green areas and enjoy nature. Have you ever heard of a park where you can't find peace? That's New York City's Bryant Park. It's well kept and beautifully built, but it's always full. The park is always busy, with people on their lunch breaks, tourists, and people there for one of the many events. There is never a moment of peace. It's more of a place to meet people than a park to rest. You can't really find peace because there are always people around, and the lack of open space makes it feel suffocating, especially when it's busy. There are other parks in New York City that are more peaceful and have more room, so Bryant Park doesn't quite live up to the hype as a place to relax. Can Disney magic really disappoint? Unfortunately, Hong Kong Disneyland is not at all what you'd expect it to be. It feels like the park is too small and crowded all the time. There are long lines, expensive food, and not many activities that stand out, which makes the experience less fun and more frustrating. There isn't much room, so it feels even more crowded, and getting around in the groups is tiring. If you pay to get in, you'd expect more. But it's too bad that Hong Kong Disneyland doesn't have the magic that other Disney parks do. I think you should go to a different Disney park if you're planning a trip to Disney. This one doesn't give you the full Disney experience. Not every park is worth your time or money, and these 10 parks are prime examples of that. From being too busy to having disappointing experiences, these parks didn't live up to the hype, which made me angry and let down. If you are planning a trip and are thinking about going to any of these places, you might want to think again. Otherwise, you can find much better parks that offer the peace, fun, or thrill you seek. Try not to make the same mistakes I did. Do your homework and stay away from places that will make you wish you hadn't gone. Have you ever had a bad time at the park? Share your thoughts below.